In every corner of life, there exists a silent but unbreakable law, the law of cause and effect. It governs the flow of nature, the rhythm of seasons, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the making or unmaking of every individual's destiny. The book, Why Cause and Effect Rules Wealth, is not merely a guide to riches, it is a mirror that reflects the deeper truth behind prosperity. It whispers to the reader that wealth is not born out of luck or privilege, but out of alignment with universal principles, principles that reward right causes with inevitable effects. The author begins by showing that wealth, in its purest form, is not just about money, it is about creation, contribution, and consciousness. Money is only a visible shadow of invisible causes, habits, beliefs, disciplines, and inner values. Just as a tree cannot grow without roots, no man can sustain riches without cultivating the inner soil from which abundance springs. True wealth is the natural consequence of invisible work, the effort we invest in understanding ourselves, the consistency we maintain in our actions, and the faith we hold in our vision. Through the pages, the book challenges a common illusion, the idea that success can be cheated or fast-tracked. Many people chase shortcuts, believing that if they mimic the outer forms of wealth, they will attract its inner rewards. But the law of cause and effect cannot be deceived. You cannot plant weeds and expect roses. You cannot live with fear, greed, and self-doubt and expect freedom, peace, and abundance. Every effect mirrors its cause, and every fortune, when traced back, reveals a foundation of discipline, vision, service, and courage. The author brings this truth to life with a moving story, a tale of two friends who started with the same dreams but different inner attitudes. One sought wealth as an escape from poverty, the other sought it as a way to grow, contribute, and create meaning. Years later, one found himself rich yet restless, chained to his gains, while the other became quietly prosperous, living in peace and generosity. Their journeys illustrate that wealth built on fear and ego may glitter for a while, but it eventually fades, only wealth built on wisdom and principle endures. Throughout the book, there runs a spiritual undertone, a reminder that we live in a moral universe, one that keeps perfect accounts. What we give, we receive, what we sow, we reap. If we sow laziness, we reap scarcity. If we sow gratitude, effort, and service, abundance inevitably follows. This truth is not mystical, it is mathematical, as consistent as gravity. The author beautifully explains that once a person truly grasps this, their relationship with money changes forever. They no longer chase wealth, they create the causes that attract it naturally. One powerful example the author uses is the story of a man who kept losing every business he started. He blamed fate, competitors, and luck, until one day, he realized that the common factor in all his failures was himself. He had been acting from impatience, from ego, and from the need to appear successful, rather than from true service and long-term purpose. When he shifted his focus from appearance to authenticity, from greed to giving, everything changed. Slowly, his ventures began to prosper, not because the market changed, but because he did. The law of cause and effect had always been fair, he just had to align with it. In this sense, the book teaches that wealth is not something we pursue, it is something we become. The moment we become the kind of person capable of sustaining abundance, abundance finds us. Just as a magnet attracts metal, aligned causes draw matching effects. If your inner state is confused, fearful, or chaotic, your outer world will reflect that. But when your thoughts, actions, and emotions move in harmony with universal law, with discipline, clarity, and sincerity, the universe responds with opportunities, resources, and allies you never imagined. The author encourages readers to see wealth as a living energy, something that flows, not something to hoard. Hoarding blocks the natural rhythm of cause and effect, while circulation multiplies it. The more you give with a pure heart, whether time, ideas, help, or kindness, the more life gives back to you. This is not superstition, it is observation. Every generous soul eventually finds that their needs are met, while every miserly one lives in quiet fear of loss. The book explores how this law applies to modern challenges as well. In an age of quick success and digital distractions, people often confuse motion with progress. But the law of cause and effect demands depth over speed. You cannot expect lifelong wealth from half-hearted work or instant gratification. You must put your whole soul into your craft, into service, and into the value you bring to others. Wealth is the echo of contribution. If your contribution grows, your rewards grow. The author writes that no prayer for abundance will work unless matched with effort, wisdom, and integrity, the real causes that create the effect called wealth. Another striking insight is that belief itself is a cause. Many people unconsciously repel abundance because they secretly believe they are unworthy of it. They sabotage their own potential through guilt, comparison, or self-doubt. The book reminds us that the law of cause and effect is neutral. It doesn't discriminate between positive or negative beliefs. It simply manifests what we hold most deeply. If we believe we will fail, that belief becomes a cause, and the universe faithfully produces the effect. But if we choose to believe that we are worthy, capable, and guided, that belief also becomes a cause, one that opens doors we once thought were locked. One of the most beautiful sections of the book describes the transformation that happens when a person stops blaming external circumstances. The moment you stop pointing fingers at the world and begin to see yourself as the root of your results, you regain your power. Responsibility becomes liberation. You realize that if you created certain outcomes through wrong causes, you can also create new outcomes through right causes. The universe does not hold grudges, it only responds. The author compares this realization to learning how to sail. Once you understand the wind, you stop cursing it, and instead, you use it to reach your destination. Toward its end, the book becomes more meditative, almost poetic, as it speaks about inner wealth. The author writes that outer riches are temporary, but inner riches, peace, gratitude, self-mastery, are eternal. True prosperity is when your mind is calm, your heart is open, and your soul feels abundant, regardless of your bank account. Ironically, when you reach that state, material wealth often follows naturally, as an effect of your elevated being. Life mirrors the energy you live in. When you live in lack, you attract lack. When you live in gratitude, you magnetize abundance. The author shares the story of an old teacher who once told his students, "If you wish to be wealthy, stop chasing money and start multiplying causes." Those words became the heartbeat of the book. They remind us that every thought we nurture, every emotion we dwell in, every act we perform, becomes a seed in the soil of destiny. Some grow fast, some slow, but all grow in their time. Therefore, the wise live consciously. They do not waste thoughts on envy or fear. They understand that these are causes too, and will yield their own bitter fruits. In its final message, Why Cause and Effect Rules Wealth, leaves the reader with a gentle yet powerful truth, that wealth is simply harmony between inner law and outer life. To be wealthy is to live in alignment with truth, to work with the universe, not against it. It is to trust that when you plant right causes, the harvest will come, even if the season feels long. The seed does not doubt the soil. It simply grows in faith, knowing that every effect has its appointed hour. And so, the book invites each of us to examine the causes we are planting daily, in our thoughts, words, actions, and habits. It asks, are these causes aligned with abundance, or with fear? With service, or with selfishness? With growth, or with resistance? Because the law does not sleep. Whatever you sow, with your mind, your energy, and your intention, will return to you multiplied. The wise, therefore, live as conscious gardeners of their destiny. They plant generously, nurture patiently, and harvest gratefully. At the heart of it all, the author reminds us that cause and effect is not a rule of punishment or reward. It is a law of balance, of fairness, of divine justice. It does not favor the rich or the poor, the educated or the uneducated, it simply reflects the truth we live by. To master it is to master life itself. When you understand that every outcome is a reflection of your inner state, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What am I creating?" That shift, from victim to creator, is the true beginning of wealth. And perhaps that is the greatest message of all, that we are not separate from abundance, but expressions of it. When we align with the eternal rhythm of cause and effect, giving before receiving, serving before earning, believing before seeing, life opens its treasures to us. Wealth, then, becomes not just a condition, but a consciousness, one that radiates peace, gratitude, and boundless possibility.